Okay, so I'm here in Buenos Aires to talk about data and journalism and telling stories with data, because that's what I do all day. I work for Twitter as data editor in San Francisco, and my job is to tell stories with Twitter data. And there's a lot of Twitter data. There's about 500 million tweets every single day, so that's a billion every 2 days. And that data could be about anything. It could be people discussing Katy Perry, or it could be people talking about President Obama or the elections that are happening right now in the US. So often what we'll do is we'll start off with this sea of data and try and make it smaller and more manageable so that we can use it to tell stories. And some of those stories are visualizations and maps and interactive guides. And some of them are articles and blog posts where we're saying, this is what happened, this is how people use Twitter to tell that story. And it's fascinating data, partly because it's instant. When something happens anywhere in the world, people tweet about it. It could be anything. It could be the sun rising, or it could be the World Cup, a goal being scored. Suddenly you can see these explosions of interest, literally visual explosions of interest, as a topic is discussed on Twitter. So, and I suppose part of what I do comes out of the fact that data is everywhere now. My background before I was at Twitter, I used to work for The Guardian, where I had the data blog, and there we told stories with data. And the reason we were able to do that is because there's an ocean of data out there in a way that there hasn't been in history. You've got governments opening data here and around the world. You've got companies opening data, and at the same time, people have access to tools to visualize and to analyze that data in a way that they never did. So I could, with very little experience, go and create a map or create a visualization or do a really complicated analysis of data without having to be an expert, without having to be a statistician. And I think when you combine those new abilities with the good old-fashioned kind of journalistic abilities of telling a story and checking your sources, being accurate, and making things accessible, you're in this great position where you've got a load of data here, and you've got the public here, and the public really want to understand all the stuff that's over here, but statisticians are very bad at explaining it. But as a journalist, you're good at explaining complicated things. So you can be this amazing link between the data and the public, and that's a really great place to be. I think there's definitely a case that because there's a trust issue with journalists, people often want to get the raw information for themselves. They want to go straight to the source. And Twitter is a way that people can do that. It gives you this kind of instant reaction you can then analyze and look at. And as a journalist, it means that, say there's an accident or a big news event somewhere, you've got that instant kind of access to sources and tip-offs and ways to get stories in a way you haven't had before, because it's so easy to send a tweet. Initially, tweets were designed to come from texts on mobile phones. That's where the 140 characters comes from. And as a way of kind of spreading stories around the world, giving them attention, it's really kind of unparalleled. You look at something like the Ferguson events. They really started off as a big event on Twitter before they were really picked up by the mainstream media. And that's interesting. So you can see how in the future you've got tweets and mainstream media kind of complement each other, and they work together to give people better access to stories.